sprouting potato. G'day folks, it's Greg here from Small Space Produce. We want to make sure when you grow your potatoes you get as many as you possibly can, and to be honest, your preparation, this stage right here, getting ready for these bad boys to go in the ground, will make all the difference. It's the bit that's so often overlooked and the bit that really will be the difference between getting a handful of potatoes and heaps of potatoes from your harvest. So we just wanted to make a quick video today to share with you the very best ways that you can maximize your growth from your potatoes. And no better example than these ones here. They are a little bit old, they're a little bit past the point. They were given to us by our local nursery, and we thought what a great opportunity to show you folks what to do if yours have gone a little bit past the point as well, because all of these will be successful with a little bit of planning and a little bit of management. So I've got three types that we have here today: the Kennebecs, the good all-rounder, the delicious King Edwards, and a local specialty in our pink eye potatoes. So the first thing that we need to go over is the anatomy of the potato, which is surprisingly important. So let's take a little look at this potato here. So you can see the top and you can see the bottom. Now, that bottom bit there is essentially the umbilical cord, the bit where this potato very first was fed so it could grow, and the top here is where we see this new growth. So some call this roots, some call it new growth. Look, I'll call it both throughout the video, but essentially these are the bits that will grow and become nice new leaves, and as they grow and they shoot out roots, they will also shoot you out new potatoes. So it's important to know that anatomy, the bottom from the top, because in your preparation that's going to be really important. Now, often, I guess people just imagine you can just throw these whole potatoes in the ground and you'll grow potatoes. And the truth is, they probably will. If we just planted all of these, we will definitely get some potatoes, but we won't get the most that we possibly can. Okay, and of course, I think we've all been in the situation that we've had some potatoes sitting in the cupboard for a bit too long, or in the fridge for a bit too long, and suddenly we come plucking them out, and we see big new growth like this, these big new white shoots, and we think to ourselves, oh fantastic, those look wonderful, they're almost ready to plant, we could grow more potatoes with these. But the truth is, these long white skinny roots, those are not good. Okay, so it's important you don't take them as good growth. We're going to talk about that later in the video, so stick with us, because it is really important that you know why that happens, how you can avoid it, and what to do once it has happened. But don't be fooled by length. It is not all about the size, ladies and gentlemen, apparently. Okay, when it comes to these guys, it's really important that we do it the right way. So stick with us and we'll share that with you towards the end of this video. Now, the next thing that I want to mention is about that preparation. It's about how you get the potatoes from this bit here, where they're nice new fresh seed potatoes. How do we get those to the point that they are growing and they're ready to grow in the ground? What are we looking for as our key indicators that they're ready to go in the ground? So let's keep it really simple here. A nice little container like this, a nice simple see-through container does the job. Egg cartons do the job. Essentially, they're both the same thing. They're something we can put our potatoes in to allow them to start growing their roots or their new shoots until they're ready to go in the ground. And this is where knowing the anatomy of the potato is quite important. So if we take the little fella that we showed you a moment ago, this beautiful little pink eye, we've got the bottom, we've got the top. All we want to do is place him here in the tub. Okay, then we want to grab our next potato, find the bottom, find the top, place him here in the tub, and what we're doing is putting bottom down and heads up. Okay, so essentially that's going to help them to start growing and get ready to go into the big new world. So just keep following that procedure. Just go bottom down, heads up. It's going to be a bit hard at this angle to show you, but just layer these potatoes, get them in one nice big row, and that way they're ready to start preparing to go into the ground. Now where do you keep this container? Where's the best spot? A common mistake we see with potatoes is people think that they need darkness. They think that they need somewhere they can place these guys as we would store them if we were going to eat them, but it's actually quite the opposite. For potatoes that we're getting ready to grow, they must be exposed to light. And of course, another big difference with potatoes is we don't want them to get too hot. When we grow most vegetables or herbs, obviously heat and light is fantastic. when it comes to potatoes, we don't want them growing too quickly, those new roots and shoots, where they use all their energy and then there's nothing left to produce potatoes down the track. So the ideal situation once we've filled this tub up is to keep them in a room that's quite cool. If we're getting really scientific, about 10 degrees Celsius is perfect. However, I think don't be too finicky with that and try to cool down a room. Just if you've got a nice cool room, a basement, a garage, a laundry, just somewhere that's unheated, and ideally as close to 10 degrees Celsius as possible, but make sure that it has a lot of light. That is the key. Okay, that will allow these roots or these shoots to start growing and get ready for the ground without them growing too quickly. Okay, so 10 degrees Celsius, bottoms down, heads up in a nice cool room will do very, very nicely for those, and simply just leave them there. But at what point are they ready to grow? Well, look, what we're looking for here is not necessarily really long growth. Let's have a little look at this guy here. Now, he'd sat out the back of the nursery for a little while, so he's a little bit white, but he's just starting to colour up because we've had him preparing the right way. Okay, what we want with this root is a nice stumpy root, not necessarily a thin root, a nice stumpy root, and maybe we're waiting till it gets about an inch high. Okay, so not too big, not too small. Once they're at about an inch high, they've got a little bit of colour, they're nice and stumpy, they are ready to go in the ground. And of course, we always have to be aware of frost with potatoes. We don't want them experiencing frost, but of course, when we plant them, and particularly in our bags and pots and containers, they're going to be under the soil, so they're nicely protected. So you can actually get them out there a couple of weeks before your last frost and let them start that procedure, because the sooner we get growing, the sooner we get spuds. And when you've eaten a homegrown spud, you will know that it is a race against time to get these things in your belly. Okay, so just to recap, nice fat little growth here, about an inch high, a little bit of colour. That's what we're looking for when we're ready to go. Okay, and that'll be created beautifully if you follow these steps to keep them in a nice cool area with plenty of light so they get that opportunity. Okay, but we can also maximize our harvest by having a look at where the eyes are and whether we can turn 2 potatoes into 4 potatoes, or 4 potatoes into 8 potatoes. And what that comes down to is analyzing each potato as you put them in the bag. So if we have a look at this example that we've already seen today, this has got this nice short stumpy little bit of growth here. We can have a look and we can see a few other little eyes dotted around the place with no growth on them. Look, this fella here, I'm going to plant him whole. He's good to go. We've got a nice solid root, and that's going to work very, very nicely. But then I pick up this fella here, and what we can see pretty clearly is 2 sets of growth that are both developing nicely, but what they have is a really nice gap between them. And what that provides is an excellent opportunity to use the chitting technique. And we have to be careful when we say that, the chitting technique, but essentially if we chop this potato in half and give that an equal amount of space on either side, what we can do is have growth from both pieces rather than one. If we just plant them together, what you'll find is probably one of these will be more dominant than the other and will basically survive, and the other one will die. But if we separate them, we will likely get growth from both of them, and therefore we get 2 for the price of 1, and who does not love a bargain like that? So what we do for chitting is we cut these in 2, okay, just like that. So what we can see here now is we've got 2 distinct pieces, each with their own nice little bit of tuber down the bottom with a nice bit of growth on top, and we can plant them individually. But what we have now done is we've broken the seal. We've left these little areas exposed on the inside, and that moisture is an issue, because if we plant these straight away, there's a high potential that they will rot, and not only will they not grow, but they could affect the other potatoes around them. So what we need to do is to cure these and to let them dry out, which is where our nice little trays come in. And just an oven tray, something like this is just perfect, something that's got good aeration, where we can place the potato with the cut side down. The eye will then hopefully just start crawling its way up towards the light, and we need to leave that for probably about 3 days or so. Look, really up to a week, but just keep an eye on the bottom of this potato. At the moment it has a really nice sheen. It's really obvious there's a lot of moisture, and what's going to happen with that is that will seal over and become quite leathery after a few days, and that's going to create a nice protective layer, and it'll become more like the original outside of the potato, and then we can plant that in the ground and we know that it's safe. So I do have one little fellow here that I've prepared just a couple of days ago. So you can see already the change in color. There's no sheen there at all. So when this guy was whole, you can see he had basically 3 nice roots that were coming up. These two were quite close together, so way too close together to chop. So we just split him in 2. We doubled up on our potato harvest. We're leaving him to dry, and he's still not quite there yet. I reckon another couple of days. But just to feel that, it's already really, really nice and leathery, and it's providing itself a nice little seal to keep it safe. Now, I have heard that you can dip these in wood ash as well, and that might help to dry them out quicker and help to keep them safe. May even provide some nutrients down the track as well. But to be honest, we've had perfect success without doing that as well. But we must make sure that those bases are totally dry. So let's say you do get your seed potatoes when they're a little bit old. You know, or you've left them for a little bit long once you've got them, and you notice these big long white roots that we discussed at the beginning of the video. So essentially these ones here have been in the dark, and they've worked very, very hard to chase the light. Okay, so what we can see is they're basically chasing that light quickly. There's no color in them. They're long, they're lanky, and what they are is also very weak. Okay, so we really don't want to be planting these ones as good as they look. You would look at this and you would say that this looks much better, okay, than our short and stumpy friend over here, but in reality it's not the case at all. So what we're going to do with these ones, look, it may seem a little bit brutal, is we're going to start the process again. So we're simply going to pluck these little fellows off here because they're not what we're after, and bring them back to a nice, good, honest potato. We're going to go back to our container and we're going to sit them bum down and head up so we can just restart the process. So you can see I've got another one here that's taken off a bit. We just gently pluck that one off. Okay, that other little one next to him is growing quite nicely, so we'll leave him. We've got the bottom down here. We place him in our container or our egg carton pointing upwards, and we are good to go. Sorry, we're going to save this entire bag from going into the bin because that would be a terrible waste, and we're going to make sure that we get as many potatoes out of that as we can. So folks, when you go to plant them, please do consider, instead of just throwing them in the ground, consider your bags and your pots and your containers. It's really the best way to maximize your harvest. Look, when you plant them straight into the ground, you lose the opportunity to really use the hilling technique. Okay, so just to briefly explain, we will do a video on this as well. When you plant them in the ground and they shoot up their new growth, okay, they'll then shoot out roots off either side, and that's where your potatoes will form. Now, as those green shoots grow, you can basically add more soil and they will shoot out more roots. And then as they grow more, you add more soil, they'll shoot out more roots. And each time they send out roots, you get more potatoes. So of course, straight into the ground, you've got a very limited opportunity to hill them up. But if they're in a bag or a pot or a container, suddenly your opportunities really do go through the roof. So bags are certainly our weapon of choice. We love growing them in bags, and especially because when it's ready to harvest, when those leaves are just dying off, we can pour them into a wheelbarrow, we can harvest our spuds, we can reuse that soil with a little bit of a jig up and making them feel good again, making the soil good again, I should say, and that way we're not wasting soil, it's not as backbreaking, and we get more potatoes. So if you are keen to get some potato grow bags, just take a look in the description and the comments below, and we'll certainly give you a few of our recommended products. And buying those, I must say, through our website or our channel does get us a very small commission, which helps us to get a little bit more content out to you folks as well. So if you are considering bags, we'd love you to come back and buy some with us. And look, the other thing we're going to ask, of course, is if you've enjoyed this video today, please give us a little subscribe down the bottom. We want you to subscribe, and we'd love you to like the video as well. And please, in the comments, let us know what your thoughts are on our methods here. And look, if you do follow through and you follow our advice, we'd love to hear the success that you have. Feel free to pop it on there on our social media, send us an email. We love nothing more than hearing from people that they've had success after following our advice, so please take the time to let us know. But folks, in the meantime, get your hands on some seed potatoes, Make sure you maximize your harvest by chitting them where you need to, but more importantly, get them prepared the right way. Don't just throw the whole potatoes in the ground. Don't just look at the long white growth and go, oh, it should be fine, and throw it away, because it's the same amount of work, the same amount of time, but essentially you'll get so many more potatoes doing it this way. So, been an absolute pleasure having you here. We love having you join us. This has been Greg from Small Space Produce and Sprouting Potato.